Will there be Ubuntu in heaven? Will there be Ubuntu in heaven? What do you think the what do you think the over-under on that is?
I have no idea.
Hello and welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 20, and this week we are live streaming to Crowbar Kernel Panic on YouTube. Please, if you're listening to the audio version of the show, please go find us on YouTube and subscribe to that channel. You know, we're at like 81. We're getting closer to 100. We're getting there. It's not going to be long. Yeah, it's slow but surely. It's a slow movement, but we are definitely making progress. And we have said many things about, oh, this should be our 100 subscriber challenge. This, you know, this and that. But we've not nailed it down yet. What do you think our 100? No. What should we do at 100 subscribers? Like, should we? We do one episode that is the Windows kernel panic. We did. The crowbar blue screen of death.
Oh man.
I don't know. I don't
know. I think that would be too easy.
I think you have to install Arch. I think that would be it. I think we got to do the Arch kernel panic episode where you have to install Arch and give it a review.
I've done it once, and it wasn't pretty.
Do you have like what if you took your hard drive out so that way you don't mess anything up? You swap hard drives and then do an Arch install on a hard. That way you can always fall back. You don't mess up.
Yeah. Yeah. I could always just do it on a flash drive and just put it on another flash drive. But see, the problem with that is then it would degrade the performance, and I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because then I would get a false, possibly a false negative.
Let me look this up. What do you think the lowest amount of hard drive space you would need in order to install Arch, install a game or something for performance, and I'm gonna see what the cheapest SSD is on Amazon. Let's see. All right, the
like
cheapest
$5.
Oh man, the cheapest SSD is actually how is this possible?
Uh-oh. It's free.
I got like a 6 gigabyte. All right, I must be looking something up wrong.
6 gigabyte.
That can't be real.
Sure, it's on a CD or DVD or whatever.
All right, let's look in the 240 to 479 range. So if we get all right, you can get oh no, that's a 64 gig. That's not going to be enough. You can get a 240. It is some brand that you've never heard of in your entire life and never will. But for
is it Silicon Power?
No, it's like Labisquis or something.
Bisquick makes it SSD.
It's $25, 240 gigs. If we get to 100 subscribers, I'll buy this and send it to you to install Arch on. And actually, here's an Intel. So that's a brand you have heard of. Oh, no, here we go. Here's a SP solid state. What size is this? Is this 240? 256. I've had an SP in the past. They were on sale like one Black Friday. And I mean, it works. It'll work. So that's
what I run. I have 2 of them.
Oh, really? Yeah. No,
I love those.
That's a real brand.
Will never go back for the price. You can't beat them.
Yeah. I was checking to see if I had, but I'm on the E, or what's the little chip one called?
The NVMe.
Yeah, I'm on that now. All right. So yeah, I'll buy, if we get to 100 subs, I'll buy this and send it to you so that you can do the arch, challenge. And, I'll help you do it. It'll be easy. Well, I made a video for you. What more do you want? You just follow my video. And
well, see, the thing is, your video will get it installed onto my laptop.
Yeah.
But it won't get all the extra crap installed onto my laptop.
Yeah. I got footage of that stuff too. I'm working on those videos, but I've gotten those kind of mixed up. Like I've forgotten which videos are what now. So I'm gonna have to go through and like watch them all, minute by minute. Now, and put it together.
With Arch, do you have to compile the NVIDIA? Well, not compile them, but you have to install the NVIDIA drivers manually, or is there like a?
Oh, you just Pacman -S NVIDIA.
Okay, cool.
And it does everything else.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not bad.
No, I'm telling you.
I can do the NVIDIA drivers, but it's just such a pain.
Once you get to that part, then it's all easy from there.
I mean, it wasn't that hard to install. It's just when I got it fully installed and everything, it was just ran so crappy. Because I guess it just needed extra things to get it to run better on my specific hardware.
I'll tell you the thing that so like recently, I've been needing to unzip a bunch of crap stuff I'm downloading, right? And I had to install unzip via terminal, and so and that works obviously, unzip and the path to the file, and it unzips super easy. But I never installed anything with a GUI, and I wouldn't even know. I'd have to look up. I'd have to Google like what to even install. Like I don't have like an archive manager or anything like that. And so every time I unzip something, I have to open a terminal and then unzip. But honestly, it's just out of laziness. I haven't actually. I could just install something else, but that's just the way I've been doing it. So like little things like that. I don't know.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm just like, yeah.
All right. So we get to 100 subs. I'm going to buy an SSD and send it to Josh so that he has to install
and
Arch.
Secretly preload Arch on it. And then say I did it.
But you can send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me. You can join us on Discord. I have a link to the Discord in the show notes. That's actually the Mintcast Discord that we hang out in. And we also had a really kind comment on a recent video. I didn't pull it up ahead of time to have it. I didn't have it ready. But I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up while we're talking and read it later in the episode. But this week, I want to start the show off just by saying, like, how was your holidays? I don't know that our last episode, was it before Christmas or was it after Christmas, but before? No, I think it was before Christmas. Yeah. So we haven't seen each other since before Christmas.
Yeah.
So how'd it go? How'd you do this year? Well,
Christmas was great. Nothing wrong with that. But New Year's was horrible because I was sick the whole time. Yeah. But Christmas was fine. Christmas went well, and it was literally like 2 days after Christmas that I started to get sick.
Yeah, like everybody I know right now is getting sick. I mean, there's the obvious like Omicron variants getting everybody sick, but even past that, it just seems like everybody is getting like sinus infections and cold or.
You know what I think it is? I think it's we've been so cautious about everything so much this past couple of years that now we're starting to get not so cautious. Yeah. And now all that the immunity has been kind of like lessened in our bodies, and now we're getting more sick because we haven't been as exposed to all the stuff. But that's just a dumb person's opinion.
No, that could be it.
Not a doctor.
I don't know. Everybody's getting sick. It's crazy. So we got my son a train table. So like, you go to the doctor's office, they have those little wooden trains that magnetically stick together and they go. Oh yeah. Yep. So we got him one of those, and they're surprisingly inexpensive, or at least they were. Maybe we caught them on sale, but like, I think it was like 60. It was like less than $70, and it's a pretty large table. It's like it's a table, which to me that itself should cost $60 or but it comes with the entire track and all the trains and stuff. I mean, it's like basically exactly what you would see like in a doctor's office waiting room.
That's cool.
Yeah, he couldn't care less.
Wow.
He's like
Good thing it was cheap.
Right, yeah. I mean,
It's like when you buy your cat something and he plays with the box.
Right. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, today he was playing with cups, and that's what my wife said. She was like, "Good thing we bought him that train table." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." Like, he was excited Christmas morning, but he hasn't played with it. Like, I don't even think Christmas morning, he was more excited about his other, like, smaller gifts, like action figures and stuff. A lot of our family members got him some, like, Marvel action figures and stuff. But yeah, the train table, we literally could have just not bought it. Like, he doesn't care. And it's mostly tore apart because, like, I put the thing together, and dude, it's a pain to put together because all the pieces are various sizes, and it only goes together so many different ways. Like, there's so many, there's a few different variations, but you're going to have extra pieces unless you do it like this specific way. And it's like a pain. I have to look at the picture every time, and we've already thrown the box away, so I have to Google the picture and look at it. And then he just destroys it. And so I'm thinking about wood gluing it all together so he can't destroy it. But I don't think he'll ever play with it if I do that.
Oh man. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So did you get anything good for Christmas?
Well, I got...
Your big gift for the year was probably your laptop.
Oh yeah, for myself, yeah, that was definitely it. Yeah, and then I got it back because I had to send it out to get it repaired, and then.
Oh, that's right. We didn't talk about that on the show either. How did that go?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot. I talked about it on 2 other shows now that I forgot that we didn't do it here. Yeah. So the original problem was there's light bleeding on the top, like in towards the middle of the right hand side from the top of the screen. And I sent it in to get repaired for that, whatever, 2 weeks, whatever, 3 weeks, whatever, comes back, and the light bleed has moved from the top middle to the corner. Same exact problem.
Oh man.
Just on the corner now. But it's definitely not as noticeable on the corner than it was in the middle. And also, I think I can tape it so that it stops doing it, because if you put your thumb on the front part of the screen and press on the back, it goes away.
Oh, okay.
Like instantly goes away. So I think if I get a piece of tape and I just really tighten it, I think I can get it to go away. Talk about redneck, but what else do I have?
Well, you know what's funny is I was telling you whenever we talked about it off the air, like just in conversation, I said, "Oh yeah, I think I've had a monitor that's done that before." It was like last week or something, because you can only tell like whenever you have like dark stuff on the screen or something.
Yeah, oh yeah, you have to have really dark stuff. Yeah.
Well, the like last week or something, I was watching something and my whole screen went dark, and I realized that this is the monitor. I was still using that monitor whenever I said that. Oh yeah, I used to have a monitor that does that. Yeah, it's this one.
Oh man, that's great.
So I found that comment. So this was on the Arch video. Jonas says, nice run through, which, by the way, I figured out based on my run through, I realized that my system was like taking a long time to boot. It would get to a certain point and then hang. And then in rewatching my run through video, I realized it did it in my first boot of the installation. And what it is I should not have said to install the DHCP CD as well as Network Manager. I only needed DHCP CD momentarily, and I set it to start every time the system starts. So I don't know. It's not going to break anything. It just makes your system take a few more seconds to boot, and I'm not going to go edit it out the video and re-upload it or anything like that. But I'm telling you now, you don't really need that part. So he says, nice run through. Never heard of the egg roll guy before. But I laughed at you whenever you were like, you're an Arch bro now. He said that he is immediately installing the Minty themes, and it seems to be good on GNOME 2. He means GNOME as well, not GNOME 2.
Right.
Always like to see what people install. He also says that he doesn't really play Linux games, but he likes listening to the show. So I really appreciate
I'll
that.
take
it. Yeah. And we got a comment on on the Fedora video. That's the
Oh my gosh.
it's the video that everybody goes back to. He says, this is from Johnny. He says that he has been trying to switch from Ubuntu to Fedora, but he can't find any gaming reviews of NVIDIA GPUs on Wayland. And then he received a comment. I'm interested on that too, buddy. This is from Agnes. And man, Agnes, you threw the buddy in there. That makes you you sound a little intimidating there. Everything all right? Everything okay, Agnes? He says, have any luck yet? So in that video, I think we did talk about Wayland, but only momentarily. I tried it with, I tried it in my test with the FPS test thing that I did.
Right.
But I don't think I actually played any games or anything on it.
Well, I think at that point it wasn't fully implemented yet.
Yeah,
it still isn't really. It's kind of sketchy. Like, I'm actually going to talk about it today a little bit, but not on Fedora, on Ubuntu. Yeah. But it's GNOME, so I mean, it can only be better on Fedora because it's more up to date.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So anyway, that's all the feedback I've got for this week. Do you want to get into the news?
Sure.
So I've got one at the top that I read, I'm not going to lie, on the toilet right before I came. I was reading it on my phone. But Gaming on Linux posted an article about, they title it Easy Anti-Cheat, Not as Simple as Expected for Proton and Steam Deck.
This is what I was afraid of from the beginning.
Yeah. You mentioned this, and I remember even in the original announcement, it was like, oh yeah, we've made the tools possible now, but
right.
Developers still have to go and enable this. But in the original announcement, and the original announcement was from Epic Games. They made it sound like it was going to be just like, oh yeah, you'll be able to go into the Epic Online Services developer portal and flip a switch for your game, and then bam, you've got it. Well, it turns out that it's not quite that easy. So not only will developers have to opt into it, but it also is just, even if you want it, it may not be possible in your situation. Because apparently there are two different types of EAC. So there is a EOS EAC, so that's for the Epic Online Services, and then there's a non-EOS EAC. And this announcement was really only for the EOS version of EAC, which is the newer version. And I haven't seen any numbers, but based on this article, and in this whole article is based on a quote from a developer of Warhammer Vermintide 2, and basically his assumption, and based on I think historically this is probably accurate, that the non-EOS EAC is by and large the more popular one. So
of course,
and it's it's been around longer. Like the only other ones are going to be like things that were probably more modern and built specifically on the Epic platform.
So in other words, it'll be another 5 years before we actually get a lot of games working with it.
I'm not technical enough to know what the difference between the two, like what they had to do to make it work on one, and I don't know if it's just as easy as copying and pasting that to the other, or if there's a whole lot more involved in that. But
well, considering the other one's older, I'm sure there's a lot of legacy crap in there, so it might not be as easy that way. I would assume. That seems
to be. I would assume that, yeah. But anyway, so I threw that one in there at the last minute, but I thought since we reported on the first announcement, we should probably mention.
Oh, that's definitely good, because I didn't actually see this anywhere, so that was good that you posted it.
Yeah. So far, I've only seen it on Gaming on Linux. I'm sure it'll be on other places. And the original, the developer didn't originally talk to them, so there's an original source link somewhere. If by the time we post this episode, I'll find that original source link and put it in the notes. But we have, according to OMG Ubuntu, we have Ubuntu is looking for a desktop gaming manager. Now, I've seen this everywhere, and there's the original Canonical post I also have in the show notes, but everybody's been talking about this situation. But essentially, Canonical released a statement that they're going to be looking for a community manager of sorts specific to Linux gaming. They said to work with partners in the Silicon world to ensure the latest graphics drivers and tweaks are built in for optimal frame rates and latency, as well as with partners in the gaming industry to ensure that mechanisms such as anti-cheat that's funny, capabilities are available to ensure fairness and product availability. So
do you think this is the start of like a gaming war in Linux?
Oh wow.
Like Steam and or Valve and Ubuntu, like the first two in the mix, and maybe some other players are gonna come around. I don't know. I when you said that, when you read that to me, I was like, oh, that kind of sounds a little like off the cuff. Like, oh yeah, by the way, we'll have anti-cheat.
Yeah, no, it I don't know. I mean, more competition's better, right? I mean, I guess.
I'm not complaining about it, but it just the way it sounded, it just sounded like that.
I remember where it was when the Linux gaming wars began. So they go on in this particular article to say that Ubuntu is no longer the first choice for Linux gamers. I mean, that seems to be kind of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I know that at one time, I mean, I don't think we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that it just Ubuntu used to be like that was the one that you pointed people to, and it was because they were so far ahead of all the other Linux desktop distros when it came to just being a user using it. You know, not being a developer that needed it for a specific reason, or your security person that needs it for a specific reason, or you just wanted to try. You wanted to replace Windows with Ubuntu, with Linux, then you would go to Ubuntu. And I don't necessarily think it's because Ubuntu's gotten worse. I think that everybody else has just gotten better. I just think that's just the Ubuntu desktop is so good across so many distros now that it's less exciting.
Yeah, and I think open source has become way, way more popular. So there's so many more developers out there. So there's so much more help. So all the other distros are getting better faster because of all the extra help now.
Yeah, and a large section of those new users are gamers. And then we see everything that Valve has done in the last couple of years, and Code Weavers, and the Wine Project. I mean, everything in the gaming area has just improved exponentially, and so that section of people is growing and growing. And what we hear nowadays is Manjaro, Pop OS, or other distros, Endeavor. There's distros that we hear people pick up as sort of the the noob distro. Endeavor is definitely not on that list, but Manjaro and Pop OS, a lot of gamers, and I say noob, they're PC power users. You know what I mean? Like even as a Windows user, they're a power user, and they're wanting to try Linux for the first time. And those distros, because they're bleeding edge, because they're like a pseudo rolling distro, they're maybe not rolling, but they're closer to the source than Ubuntu is. They migrate to those over Ubuntu, which is their distribution cycle is basically based on stability as much as possible, as opposed to having the latest graphics drivers. I don't know how Ubuntu kind of balances that. I mean, do they have like maybe a checkbox in the installation, like the gamer switch? Like if you're a gamer, you switch that and you get the closer to rolling release distro.
Yeah.
Or
well, I mean, technically, was it? I can't remember if it was Popey or Wimpy. One of the two made that rolling Rhino package for Ubuntu, where it'll just like you install that, and then it basically just upgrades it to the most recent like developer versions of all the software.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't heard about that, or maybe I did.
That was a long time ago that
Gotcha.
he did that. I
That
don't
was-
know how long ago it was, but it was a while.
That's a great name, because it's just like it's just gonna plow through. Like,
Yeah. I never actually tried it, and I don't even know if it's a thing still, but maybe I should try that. Just to see, just for the heck of it.
maybe that's the answer. But they're definitely pointing a new focus to this, which an interesting thing that in this OMG Ubuntu article, they point out that in the past, Ubuntu has even threatened the stability of Steam.
Yeah.
You know, back whenever they had the 32-bit libraries announcement, and then they ended up backing
People were
out of
really
it.
mad.
Yeah.
That was like a huge blunder on their part.
Yeah, and I think that Ubuntu is really... So they're similar to Apple in the sense that they will make a decision that we criticize Apple all the time for like making decisions on behalf of the user, but like sometimes they're right. Like the move, if Ubuntu had, well, maybe they're not. I was going to say Unity, but then they backed out and went back to GNOME, so maybe that's a bad example. Like if Ubuntu were to switch to Pipewire. Like how much faster would Pipewire develop? You know what I mean? Like, I think that if they kind of throw their weight behind a certain like thing, because so many people use that, then it's gonna force whatever that is to kind of progress faster.
Right.
Or I think that's their intention. They're just they make that gamble, and they're not always right.
Nope.
And I think that the whole 32-bit libraries thing was an example of like a time where they were like, we're going to make this change and everybody else will kind of follow suit and follow us. But then they either didn't have as much weight as they thought they did, or the impact of that was so much greater than they originally had thought.
Right. And I mean, like, yes, 32-bit processors are gone, but like the 32-bit packages are abundant and we still need them, especially for gaming. So like,
yeah, I mean, I think like
doesn't make sense. That didn't make sense to me when they said that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Like you literally need some of that to install Steam, not even to play a game,
exactly.
just to run Steam.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So that was definitely a time that it backfired. That philosophy may not always be the right one to have. But the article speculates that this could be in response to recent YouTube influencers ignoring Ubuntu entirely.
Yeah.
They're talking about us, Josh. They're talking about us.
What's Ubuntu?
Our 83 listeners. They didn't like that review that we gave.
Well, I'm being truthful, all right?
No, obviously they're talking about I speculate. They're probably talking about the Linus
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because he didn't even mention. I mean, to be honest, I don't think he did. He mentioned Ubuntu at all. I don't remember. But I don't think he did. So it's like, whatever.
You know what's funny? Two things about that is, one, I don't remember him ever saying anything. I don't remember them ever saying the word Ubuntu. And then the second thing is, I never noticed until I read this article. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. He didn't, Steve Swiss in the YouTube chat says that Ubuntu just doesn't have the impact in the Linux world anymore. I think that's it, Steve. I think it's just they don't have the splash they used to.
I think it came in with the fact that it would include a lot of the proprietary stuff and like a lot of the desktop packages and stuff like that. I think that's where it came in before anyone else did. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, everyone else caught up to it, and then Ubuntu just kind of like stayed in its old ways of doing things slowly and kind of, monotonously upgrading things. And now they're just kind of like, whatever. And also the fact that they're old hat.
Yeah. You know how like smartphones, like there would be these like huge improvements. So like you started out like with like T9 Word, everybody's like tapping a letter 3 times to get to the G and then doing all that. And then someone was like, well, we could just have a whole keyboard. And you got the little flip keyboard, which, by the way, Pine just released a case.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
But
that
like,
awesome.
That was like a huge innovation. And then they were like, what if these bad boys had GPS and you could use them to navigate? And then they got that. And then like, what, we increased the screen resolution. And then after the screen resolution, they're like, oh, so much so that we can put the keyboard on the screen, and then you can type that way. And then the screens just got bigger and bigger and bigger. They got faster and faster, and so on and so forth. But now it's like, what else can you do? Like, my phone does everything. Like, there's no new innovation that you can put on this thing. Like, there's just no. So then they started saying, well, everybody wants their phone to fold, obviously. So we're going to make it where it folds in half, and then you put it in your pocket. And like everybody it's just like, now they're just inventing problems for them to come up with a solution for it, because there's really no innovation. Are we getting like that with the Linux desktop, where it's just like, we're getting so good that it's just impossible to innovate now?
See, I don't know, because as far as the desktop experience goes, I think it's just as good as Windows. Definitely, probably better.
Yeah.
As far as the desktop goes, gaming, on the other hand, we're just not there yet, and that is what Ubuntu is kind of trying to maybe grab onto and keep going forward with.
I'm being a little facetious. We still have X. We're working on Wayland. We're trying to improve Pipewire. There's definitely things going on that there's legitimate innovations and improvement. But but I do think it's slowing down. I think that, like, all the easy problems have been solved. We're just down to the hard ones now.
Right. It's to the point where almost anyone can just grab a Linux distro and install it and be done with it, and not have to worry about much of anything.
Yeah. So the future of Snapcraft. So Ubuntu announced that the current code base of Snapcraft is going to be considered legacy, and they're going to be working on they've already started working on a more modular, modern version of the code base. This is going to be the future implementation. The good news, and the only reason why I put this in here, the key takeaway I think for us and for our listeners, is that current snaps will continue to work. So
thank goodness.
Yeah, so it's not like you're going to have to keep up with, that was a legacy snap and this is a module snap. I
literally just transferred everything over to Ubuntu and snaps on my server, and I'm like, when I read this, I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah. I remember so in my previous job, I worked a lot with Ansible, and they had a thing like this where Ansible used to have all the modules built in, whenever you would download Ansible, and then they made some change. And honestly, I've left that role and I never use Ansible anymore, but they made some change where now you're going to have to specify a path to a library for a certain module, instead of just being able to say this is part of core, so I can just type it out. But it was a similar kind of thing where if you had anything that was built before, it didn't break. It still worked. It's just anything going forward if you use any of the new module features. So I'm guessing this will be similar to that. Again, this is kind of over my head. I have no idea how to make a snap.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean by modular. It just, I don't know, because Snapcraft was supposed to be this one place to get everything, and I don't know what they mean by modular. Do they mean they're going to break it up and No,
I think it's in the
in the code base you're talking.
Right, yeah. We're talking out of our lead here, but I think what they mean is the original code was monolithic is the term they use. So in the sense that you had to have this whole thing maybe, whereas this is you can only way Python is you just use the parts that you need.
Right. I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, probably. Hopefully it's just gets better. That's all you can hope for.
Yeah. The Heroic Game Launcher 2.0 release. They hit their milestone release.
Did you ever use this?
I have used it, actually.
Okay, see, I've never used it. I've heard of it, but I never used it.
I've used it one time because, I think I've used it twice. So when we did the review of the Magic the Gathering MMO that they were making, the isometric point and clicker or whatever, that was an absolute failure. I had to use this launcher to get it to work on my system.
Right, I do remember that now. Yep.
And then also I used it more recently because I got on Twitch, they were giving away a free copy of Alien Isolation, but you had to get it on the Epic Game Store. And so I had to use the the Heroic game launcher to get the Epic Game Store to work. And it's essentially like, there's not a native Epic Game Store, so this is just their way of they use Heroic, they use like an app called Legendary, and I don't know how those two things work together, but like, it's essentially Steam or whatever on your system, but it's working through this. And
right.
You used to have to get an API key or a SID key from your account. So you'd have to go to the Epic Game Store online, and log into your account, and then get this long number that was like, this relates to your account, and then you would put that in the Heroic launcher, and that's how they were able to log in. But in this new release, it no longer does that. It just pops up and you can just log in.
Oh, that's nice.
That makes it way more accessible for people.
Yeah.
They also listed off, several performance features. So I think if you're already a user of the Heroic Games Launcher, I think you're probably already noticing the improvements. And then if you've never tried it before, especially because that whole, the way it logged in, or maybe you just didn't even know about it, I think now's the time to go check it out. So go check that out. All right. That wraps up the news.
Yep.
So what have you been testing? What have you been working on this week?
So, over the with the winter sale from Steam, I picked up Horizon Zero Dawn. I picked it up on the last day of the sale because I was like, okay, let me start from the beginning. First, I thought it was more of like an Ark survival kind of game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't feel the whole Ark survival game. Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. And so I didn't want to buy it. And this was like when it came out. I was like, whatever. And this was, going on and on and on. And then I actually, when I saw it on sale, I looked it up and I was watching reviews and I'm like, oh, wow, this game is not at all what I thought it was. And so I picked it up and it's awesome. It's a really good game. So basically what you're just a regular person in like a post-apocalyptic kind of like the world, something happened and the world went back to the people being more primitive. But
yeah, okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but there are robotic animals that somehow, like, I don't know if someone created them or well, obviously someone created them, but I don't know like if they're like morphing or what's going on exactly with these animals yet, but they're all robotic and you hunt them essentially and get parts so you can upgrade your weapons and upgrade, stuff, and you get money. Well, their parts are money, some of it. And so you're this person that you have no parents. You start out as this outcast of this tribe that you're in, and you're trying to figure out where your parents are and all this crap. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really good story so far. I've gotten about maybe like a quarter of the way into the game, to the main story, and it looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. It's the best game I've seen in a long time as far as like visuals go. Yeah,
it does look really good. So I am only aware of this game in that I've seen pictures of it, and now that I'm looking at it on the Steam page, I don't know why I never saw the robotic animals, but I didn't realize that it had I thought it was just like set in like a primitive time period. Like I didn't realize that.
No, it's actually like way in the future.
Wow, that's so wild. And I've seen I saw this really awesome cosplay of the main character, and I've thought about picking up this game. I think I would probably be interested in it, but at the time that I was originally looking at it, I almost never played single player games, but this podcast has gotten me playing single player games again. So I might need to pick it up. I might need to try it out.
It's really good. Like I can't give it enough praise. It's really good. I have had one crash, but other than that, it's been excellent.
And you're playing it on Linux right now?
I played it on both Linux and Windows. I specifically have been playing it on Windows because Linux there's just not enough there. It's well, I'll get into it.
Yeah.
I tested it on Ubuntu 2110 using Wayland and X back and forth, seeing what the differences are. And that's with NVIDIA, so this is where the whole NVIDIA Wayland comes into play. So the first thing you got to do when you get the game, you install it, everything happens, you have to downgrade it because the 1.1.1 or 1.1.11 whatever version of the game has a LSD grass acid trip when you're playing it, because the freaking textures are like I don't even know, they're ghosting, and they're also shimmering, and it's really freaking messed up. It is bad.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It happens. It happens in Gorgon. It has the same problem.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's where I saw it before. I knew I saw that before.
Yeah.
But so okay. So what I found on ProtonDB, there's a guy made a script on GitHub. Now don't go downloading random scripts and running them. Make sure you know what they're doing. But he has it so that you can downgrade it to the 1.10 version, and basically you just put in your username and password for Steam, because you gotta do some trickery, I guess, behind the scenes with Steam to get it to downgrade. But with the script, the reason why I posted the script and not actually doing it yourself is because in the script he also has it so that it doesn't upgrade the game again. He stops it from upgrading it back to the 1.11, because if you do it manually, you have to add in all this extra stuff so that it doesn't upgrade manually.
Yeah.
Again. So that's why I recommend the script. It was really easy. You just download it, run it, and you're done. And that's pretty much it. So with Wayland versus X, I'll just start with that. I really didn't see any difference, to be honest. I think it was pretty much the same as far as NVIDIA goes. Now, the only thing I can say about that is NVIDIA is not using full Wayland yet. They're using X Wayland. So that might be the differential right there.
Yeah.
So if I was running, just Intel graphics, maybe it would be a bigger difference, but this game won't play on Intel graphics. So
yeah,
that's another story. And just right out of the box with Ubuntu, you're supposed to be able to, with Steam, you're supposed to be able to use DLSS with the Proton Experimental. Well, you have to. I forgot to put in the launch options that you're supposed to put in, but there's 2 launch options you have to put in to have it work. And I tried that, and it did not work. I could not get DLSS to come up at all. I tried many different scenarios where I looked on Windows Ubuntu forums and Steam forums, and nothing. Everything I tried just it wouldn't come up. And I'm looking in the same place that Windows has the DLSS option to change it. So maybe I'm looking in the wrong place, but I would imagine it would be in the same spot.
Right. That's what I was about to say. Is how do you know? Because I tried to turn it on for Baldur's Gate, and I just wasn't sure if it did anything.
Yeah. You will notice if you get it to work. You will notice, because I'll get to it later, but you will notice.
Okay.
So my FPS in the game has been between 40 and 65, which 40 is just not enough. I mean, I could put the graphics down, but
on your system,
I don't want to.
That's not great. Yeah.
Yeah. If I should mention that I have it's a i7 11800H, I think. Yeah, 11800H, and a mobile NVIDIA 3060. So it's no slouch. Should be able to do it. And my frame times, I got the highest frame time I saw was about 25 milliseconds, which really isn't that bad, but that's when it was getting down into the 40 FPS range. It started to get up into the 25 milliseconds. And I didn't notice any stuttering or anything like that with the game. It ran really smooth. It just when it gets down to 40, I start to notice. Once it gets past 50 frames per second, I really start to notice the difference. And that's pretty much all I tested on Ubuntu for that. And like I said, I couldn't get DLSS to work, so couldn't really test the difference.
It has a gold rating on ProtonDB.
It runs good. It does. It's just you have to put the graphics down to get it to work smoothly and more frame rate. If I put it down to like high instead of ultra, I probably could have got between 80 and 90 frames. But when I can, why do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm seeing. So, the more recent comments on it are thumbs downs versus the older comments are thumbs up.
That's because of the update. The update was not too long ago, and if you don't know to downgrade it, then it doesn't work at all. It does work, I should say, but it's like an LSD trip. It's bad.
Yeah, all in all, there actually is a lot of thumbs down comments. I wonder how they do that on ProtonDB. Do they judge it based off of the like overall? So there's 325 reports. Does it get that gold rating based on the ratio between all of those 325 reports, or do they take into consideration like the last 30 days?
Yeah, I don't know how it works exactly.
I'm not sure how that works. Yeah, but it seems.
I would imagine if they did it for all time, that would be like, it would really not change much once it gets to be like a couple thousand reviews.
If you have a game like World of Warcraft or something that's around for years and years and years and essentially changes every 6 months, it's a different game.
Yeah, so it must be like the last 30 days or 2 months or something like that. It has to be, because otherwise it wouldn't change at all, like you said.
I do see a comment here. So this is one of the thumbs down comments. They said that the Proton enable NVA API equals 1 doesn't appear to let DLSS work.
That is the one. You have to. There's another command you have to put before that. I'll have to find it and put it in the show notes. But you got to put in 2 commands to get it to actually work. But I still didn't get it to work.
This guy has exactly your problem. He also says that grass looks like it has a heavy motion blur enabled when moving and has this weird effect over when stationary. So I had that exact same problem in Project Gorgon, and I still do. I tried it recently. I just kind of check in on it from time to time because it doesn't require a subscription, and I just kind of want to see its progress.
Right.
So I downloaded it recently and logged in, and it still has that same problem. But if in Project Gorgon's case, I don't know that this would work in Horizon Zero Dawn. You go change the resolution to something absurd, 800 by whatever, like something weird, and then go change it back, and then it fixes the problem. No more motion blur. It's like some kind of weird issue with there's an effect on top of there's almost like a filter on top of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And that resolution doesn't match up with the actual rendered resolution.
It's like a little bit, the latency is a little bit off, so it's like kind of like a shadow almost. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably something like that. And since it was only the update that screwed it up, I don't know. It's got to be something weird.
Maybe it'll get better. I know that Magic the Gathering, there was an issue for a while where every time Magic would do an update, it actually was not running on Proton. It was anyway, every time a new release would come out by Magic the Gathering, the guy that was maintaining the Linux version of it you'd have to give that guy like a week or so to get caught up, and then it would start working again, But it was just it was just like every release, like I would just know that the MTG Arena is dropping a new release this week. It's not going to work for about 4 days. I got to wait. He probably has a day job. He's got to wait for his Saturday or whatever to fix it. Yep. But maybe if this is a recent patch that kind of messed it up, maybe they'll get it working soon.
I don't know. I hope so. Because Glorious Egg Roll Proton didn't work either. I tried both of those. Well, I say both, but the 6 and the 7.
The chosen one.
The chosen one did not work.
You were supposed to be the chosen one.
I trusted you. Yeah, anyway, so I also tested it on Windows 10 21H2, which is the newest version of Windows you can get, yada yada. And it totally crushed it. FPS was between 75 and 115 with DLSS enabled, which that's with all settings maxed out, everything, you know, as beautiful as you can get it. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And without DLSS enabled, it gets between 60 and 85 frames per second. So that's a huge difference.
Okay. So maybe what I need to do, because I haven't been measuring my FPS on Baldur's Gate. Maybe I need to run it for a little while without DLSS and then run it with it and see if I see a improvement on frames.
Are you using Mango HUD? You ever hear of that?
No, I'm looking it up right now.
I actually found that. Well, I didn't find it. Another podcaster, I can't remember his name now. Linux for Everyone, that guy.
Oh yeah.
He actually found it, and I stole the idea from him, and it's amazing. It's kind of like just an overlay. It's just a little overlay that shows your FPS and everything while you're playing the game, so you can actually test it while you're playing. And it gives like your usage and your frame times and all that stuff, your GPU usage and everything. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty awesome. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, I've just been using the built-in thing that you can turn on within Steam.
Yeah, this one just gives you a little more information.
It looks nicer too, especially like if you're going to be streaming or getting
right. Yeah. If you ever look at on YouTube a video that's like comparing two different versions of a game, or like like a laptop, they're trying to test it and see how many frames they can get. That's usually what they're using, something like that.
Yeah.
MSI Afterburner, that's the other one. That's the one on Windows you can use to get this same kind of look.
Gotcha.
That's what I use at least. So yeah, and the frame times on this were no more than 15 milliseconds, so definitely a lot faster as far as that goes. But that's because the frame rates didn't drop below 60 for the most part. So yeah, I guess my conclusion would be that Ubuntu and Valve have a long way to go before they can catch up with Windows, because I mean, not just this game, but I've tested almost all my games in my library that are Windows or Linux native and Proton, and none of them almost can compare to Windows performance. There's always something. There's always just something. Like Witcher almost works beautifully, except for once in a while it'll stutter. Once in a while, and on Windows you never notice that at all. Trying to think of other games. I should have put them in the show notes, but I tested, like I said, almost all my games I have, and there's just always something. It's just so annoying. It's like Linux is almost there with most of them, but it's just not quite.
I need to do more testing on Windows. I haven't actually played a game on Windows in
Don't do it. Don't do it.
A few years, yeah.
You'll want to stay because the games are so.
You think
smooth.
that but I think that I do less graphics intensive games because
that's the thing. If you can get a game that's above 60 frames per second, no matter what, you're fine. You'll never notice the difference. Yeah,
and because I play a lot of MMOs and they're mostly CPU performance heavy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why, because I swear to you, Final Fantasy 14 runs better on Proton than it does on Windows.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I've actually looked it up, and I've heard that it does.
But that's not. I don't think that's. If you were to go buy a new game today, I don't know that it's that way. Or even if you did a new MMO today, even that MMO, has some age. So yeah, maybe I'm just living in. Just
in a bubble.
Ignorance is bliss, man. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, seriously though, like I don't even know. Well, to be honest, if I didn't have Windows, I would just put the resolution, or not the resolution, the quality down a little bit and just play Horizon Zero Dawn on Linux. That's what I would do.
I never do that. I never even adjust the graphics settings on most games, and if I can't turn them all the way up, I get really it kind of irks me. But
yeah, that's my thing. I do get irked when I'm losing performance for no reason. Like, that bugs me.
But I really do think it's the types of games that I buy, though, because I usually either buy indie games or the same 4 or 5 MMOs that I've always played. And so I think I really do think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, and I buy a lot of AAA games, so that's the difference.
Yeah,
and they're like graphically intense. I even like Skyrim. I mod the crap out of it. And that's one thing I'll never pretty much be able to use Linux for, because I've tried so many times to do it, but it's such a hassle that it's not worth it. I just go right back to Windows because it's so much easier.
I think I'm going to do a Windows installation on another drive or something just so I can help in these comparisons. Also, it could be that certain hardware in my setup compared to yours,
it could be
that it runs better on Linux. Could be more tailored towards Linux than the other.
Yep. Hey, if someone has your exact setup and they're testing on that, it's going to run 10 times better on your system than it ever will on mine, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I picked up a very easy to run. Will run on anything. Probably will run
on a toaster.
Yeah, to run on your toaster. Very low graphics. Actually, this game was originally designed for the Switch, and that I think that might have been their target market. But it's also available for PC. But it's very kind of like chibi cutesy style art. But I saw an advertisement for Heaven Dust 2, which was a game I never heard of, and it just, for whatever reason, just caught my attention. I think it just had this 90s survival horror aesthetic to it that just struck me. But it's this I'm going to look it up real quick. It is it's this love letter to Resident Evil. That's what they say in their description. And it's this anime cutesy version of Resident Evil, and the gameplay of the game is very similar. Man, where's their Steam page? I don't want to open Steam because I feel like it's going to mess up my.
Yeah,
my thing
something will happen.
But it's developed by One Girl Studio, and this is supposedly, what I've gathered is, this is a 2-person team from China. But I got that I saw that in a comment, because you basically can't find anything about this studio by just Googling their name. They don't seem to exist, except for the fact that they published these two games, Heaven Dust and Heaven Dust 2. But the publisher is Indie Nova, which is a small developer indie publisher from China. They seem to kind of target the US, but they're all they do a lot of small publishers. And the only 2 games, according to Steam, that they've made is Heaven Dust and Heaven Dust 2. But it's I checked it on ProtonDB before I purchased it. There was 0 reviews on ProtonDB, so nobody had played it and done a review yet. And normally I would be hesitant to purchase a game and be the first person to review it on ProtonDB, but I thought we could do it and at least talk about it on the podcast. If it's an absolute failure, I can talk about it, and I'll post a review on ProtonDB. And if I can do it within a certain amount of time, I can actually return it and get my money back with Steam, because they have a return policy.
Yeah.
And I have done that before, where I've purchased a game and it literally just didn't work on Linux, and so I returned it and said it didn't work, and they don't ask questions. They're okay with it. Or at least they were in my case. But the other idea that I had, or the other reason I went ahead and did it, is because you could get both games for less than $20. You can actually get the first Heaven Dust game for $8. It's a.
Oh yeah, I see they have the bundle here. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I just picked up the bundle, because Heaven Dust 2 graphically looked better than Heaven Dust. But from what I've played of both games so far, which I've beaten Heaven Dust, I played all the way through it. I actually think I probably prefer certain things about Heaven Dust over Heaven Dust 2, so I'm glad I got them both. Plus, they're both really short, so you kind of have to have both of them to get get anything out of this, because I beat the first Heaven Dust game in just over 3 hours, and I was like also watching things on my other screen, stepping away for a moment. I'm getting screen captures of all this because I want to make a video about it. And even with all that going on, I still beat the game in under 4 hours, way under. I mean, just over 3 hours. So it's a very, very short game, but that's why it's so cheap. And then Heaven Dust 2, I believe, is a similar time frame from what I've seen. I'm only at the beginning of it. But from what I've seen on YouTube, watching people's playthroughs, there are definitely playthroughs that are around an hour for both games. So I think they're a similar time frame. That being said, this literally is a love letter to Resident Evil and to like 90s horror survival, because it's your main character wakes up in a maintenance closet in a mansion, and you don't know how he got there. We don't know, he's lost his memory for all we know. Yeah. And there's like a note on the floor. You read the note. It tells you, where the key is to this room you're locked in. You go find the key, get yourself out. You don't have a weapon yet. You see that there's zombies in this mansion, and you find shell casings. And then you end up finding, gunpowder, and then you find a gun, and then, so on and so forth. You find a crank. So
is there like a story to this game?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, that's good.
There's a story to the game, but it's really simple. It's the story basically, without, I don't even know that I can give any spoilers. I mean, it's essentially Resident Evil, right? But it's just cutesy Resident Evil. But like there is a story, like it's told through journal entries, just in the similar way to the original Resident Evil. So like as you go through, you'll find notes, and the notes will either have clues to the puzzles that you're involved in, or they'll tell a little bit more of the story. You do, it is kind of interesting. Like there's like a few aspects of the way the virus works and their telling of this story that's a little different than the main Resident Evil story. And it's,
so they actually go into the backstory of like how the virus happened and everything.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So it's like you're seeing like journal entries.
From hospital workers or whatever,
Right, exactly, like from laboratory workers and stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah, so but it's great in how like it's nostalgic towards that time period. So like if you grew up playing those types of survival horror games like Dino Crisis, like these games where it's like, okay, here's a door, it's got an impression in it, and how do I go find the puzzle piece that fits that impression so that I can open this door? Oh, well, it's in this fountain that I need to figure out what the hands on the clock by the fountain needs to be turned to in order to like it's
like
that
this little shimmering thing on top of the fountain that you can barely see.
Right, yeah. It's that type of game, which is so funny because like who would ever do this? Who would ever build a mansion that it's like, what would be great to get to the basement? What if we had a fountain, right? Stay with me. We have this fountain that moves out of the way and allows you to go down as long as you get the grandfather clock in the atrium set to 12:37. Like
in the atrium.
Like who decided to build this mansion this way? But like
talk about over engineering.
That's the way the puzzles work in the game, and it's really cool too because it's like it's like you have like the clue to a puzzle in one part, and then you go to another part, and then you find a piece to another puzzle, and you're like, well, I can tell this is important. I'm gonna keep it, but I don't know what to do with it yet. And then it keeps sprawling, like sending you all over this map that you've already discovered and navigated. and it's in order to find, just to gain another inch. Like, okay, I can get into this room now, and then I look in this room. Oh, and what the hell's this thing? And then I'll put it in my bag and I'll use it later. It's got a really limited bag space too, which honestly, the game would be a lot easier if it wasn't for the bag space thing, because you're also having to decide, okay, well, I'm going to need the crank in order to, crank this valve to fill the room with gas, but I'm also going to need the lighter to light this oil on fire. And I'm also going to need, this other thing. And so you've only got 6 slots. And so you're
Right.
trying to decide, okay, well,
Now, when you drop something, does it stay there forever and you can go back and pick it up? Or
oh, no. So the only way you can drop something is by putting it in, just in like in Resident Evil, where you have like an inventory box that you can go
right.
to.
Yep.
It works just like that. And the box is just like in Resident Evil, where it's magically like linked to the other boxes. So
Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah.
So if you need something on one end of the map, but you can't carry it, you can just drop it in the box and then go to the other box or whatever.
Okay.
But you sometimes have to make a decision, like, well, do I drop off my health potion so that I have enough space for this? Or maybe I don't need a magazine, but I'll still carry the gun that's already got 16 bullets. There's that whole aspect of it. It also has this vending machine mechanic, which is not in Resident Evil. Well, in later Resident Evils, they have like the guy that comes up and says, "What are you buying?" They got that guy, but this is
got some death sticks.
This is like their version of that, I guess. But they have these vending machines, so every time you unlock a new area of the map, so like you start on the mansion and then you get a laboratory, and then like when you open a new little area, every area has a vending machine, and in the vending machine there's a map of the area, so you can buy a map, or you can just run around without a map as long as you. The whole game is not that large. You don't necessarily need maps, but it does make it easier. So I bought a map for every area. And then you can also buy magazines, not like magazines to a gun. These are like literal, like little magazines. So there's like a health and fitness magazine. There's like a gun, like a guns and ammo magazine. But you think, well, that's silly. Why would you buy those? Whenever you buy them, it like your character benefits from that. So like if you buy the guns and ammo magazine, which is the one I bought, I didn't buy any other magazines, but I would buy that magazine whenever I saw it available. It makes you have a higher crit chance, basically. So because it's it's in
so
your
you like
inventory.
learn something about it. It's like almost experience.
Yeah, like I was sitting around reading that magazine and learn how to shoot these.
I magically learned how to shoot everything.
I learned how to shoot these zombie lab technicians better. And so I would buy those. And the way you get the currency for this is by killing the zombies. So like,
okay,
there's sort of a trade-off. So if you remember from the original Resident Evil, and later Resident Evils didn't really do this as much, but in the original Resident Evil, you didn't want to shoot zombies. You wanted to use a knife to try to kill them, or just run past them. Just run past them and leave them, wherever they are, if you can, because there was literally not enough bullets in the game to shoot every zombie. This game doesn't have that type of scarcity, but you really don't know that going in. Like, I was kind of curious, like, okay, if I was an indie developer that was like obsessed with Resident Evil so much that I made this little cutesy, anime version of it, would I give enough bullets? Would I have factored that in? Or would I be like, no, if you're a true fan of Resident Evil, you're going to be knifing these zombies. So I was kind of doing that calculation in my head. I was like, okay, do I try to run past them or what? But I opted for gunning down every zombie. I think I gunned down every zombie I saw, and I still had bullets left over at the end of the game.
They probably were annoyed at that fact with the original one, so they just said, you know what, we're going to have bullets everywhere in this one.
Yeah. But because of the mechanic of the gunpowder and the shells, so like whenever you shoot a zombie, you come back to that spot later, there'll be shells on the ground there. And then the vending machines sell gunpowder, and you can use the gunpowder to turn your old shells into bullets. Cool. Yeah. So there probably isn't enough magazines. I'm sure there's not enough magazines in the game to kill every zombie, but because of that mechanic, you have it.
You
so
can reuse them. Yeah.
Right. So if you kind of do the vending machine mini game, then you'll be able to shoot every zombie. Let's see. So the puzzles were pretty good. Oh, the way the combat works in the game. So combat in the game is I played it mouse and keyboard, but there's a difference. If you're using a controller or if you're on the Switch, it kind of has this auto aim mechanism.
Okay.
I think it's easier if I explain mouse and keyboard first. So the mouse and keyboard style is sort of like the Metal Gear Solid style, where you push the button for Solid Snake to pull out his gun, but then he kind of just turns on an axis.
Yep. As you move your mouse around.
Right. So that's the way I played this game. I would right click to have him pull out his gun, and then basically wherever I pointed my mouse cursor, he would turn in that direction and fire.
Pray and pray.
Right. Yeah. And on the Switch, or today I was playing this game with my son. He's been talking about zombies all day. Before I plugged in the controller, the way it works with the controller is you hold down the key to have him pull his gun out, and then it auto aims. Like it automatically just points him, and then you just pull the trigger.
Oh, okay.
Is kind of lame. Like in some of the reviews I saw about this game, there was a lot of complaints about that. Now it was people that were reviewing it, playing it on the Switch, so I assume it works that way all the time on the Switch. And I can see how that would kind of be lame, because you're literally just, anytime you see a zombie, you just hold the button down and then fire, and eventually they're going to die. Whereas I kind of got overwhelmed a few times doing it the way I was doing it. It's a really simple game, but like there was some kind of animation problems. So like sometimes if a zombie attacks you, their attack animation, like your animation from being bit, takes so long that they could bite you again before you can actually break free and run away. And I think that's a flaw. It's an annoying part of the game. But because of that, without the auto aim, if you got like more than two zombies, if you get caught in that animation, you just die. Basically, the way the game works is if you get bit, because of this animation flaw, if you get bit once, definitely twice, you're just going to die. Like you're not going to be able to get away from them because of this problem.
Right.
What I've played of the second game so far, it doesn't have the same problem. But in the first game, that definitely was a thing. So it was just like I basically just ran around and just like never got bit, because it's the only way. But in the second game, I didn't play the first game with a controller, so I don't know what it felt like, but I imagine it was terrible. In the second game, they do have this aspect of like whenever you're using the audio aim system, it will start at the midsection of the zombie and then raise to his head if you hold it long enough. And then if you fire at the head, obviously you do more damage. But they have a mechanic in the game where some of the zombies have this like exoskeleton, either over their midsection or over their head. And so they give you kind of a reason to shoot a zombie in its midsection versus its head. Instead of it just being like, well, I'm just always going to aim for the head, there is kind of a decision. Sometimes it may not be the right move. And then there's also like exploding zombies that will explode. Yeah. So
kind of like
Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead.
Yeah. So I haven't gotten that far into the second one yet. I just played it long enough to kind of realize that they had that variation in the different types of zombies, which I think is an improvement over the first one. But yeah, ultimately, I really like this game for the nostalgia reason. I was excited to play it. I beat it in 3 nights, but like I said, I was kind of taking my time, and I was doing it after work, kind of to unwind. But I was excited to play the game every night. Like, I also had that like puzzle addiction where it's like, I found a new piece and I want to find where it goes, and so I'm like running from puzzle to puzzle to solve this thing.
I don't mind a game with puzzles in it, just as long as they're not like so hard that I just get frustrated.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is a thing that I should mention, is the localization. So the translation to English is it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's not great. There's a lot of places in there where you read something and you're just like,
What?
I knew all those words, but I don't know what they said. You know, like I
Right.
knew every word there, but it didn't make any sense. And I put in the show notes here kind of a joke, like at work, I have to read a lot of manuals that are translated from French to English. And so I think maybe that helped me prepare for this game a little bit better, because that's what it's like reading. It's like such a literal translation. It's like no human would ever talk this way, so it's hard to follow, you know, in reading it. You almost have to read it and then think about.
It's like a Google Translate.
Yeah, only Google Translate that's probably what they did. They probably just took all the lines of the game and put it in Google Translate and then put it in the game. But for that reason, some of the puzzles are hard to solve because, like, you're reading this note that's supposed to be a clue, and it doesn't make any sense. And you're kind of knowing that it's translated. I kind of think, well, did they mean that literally, or was that they thought that was going to sound natural and give me a clue, or is it like a literal thing? Like, is that part of the clue? The fact that it's like, it's all janked up. Like, does that really mean something? Yeah,
I don't know.
So I had to cheat on a few puzzles. I had to Google what the answer was to a few of them, because like there was just, based on the way that it was written, I was never going to figure it out. But for nostalgia points alone, I really enjoyed the game a lot. And I do miss those games. Even the new Resident Evil remakes that they're doing, they're so fantastic, but they don't have that feeling.
They're so far removed from the actual game that it's just far enough that it's not the same. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, I might start looking more in the survival horror genre. I think this has reminded me of how much I loved those as a kid.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a game that's short, once in a while, because you can actually complete something.
Yeah, I don't really mind it. Yeah, that's another thing too. Is that's I think it's pretty short. Like maybe it's a tad too short. Like maybe they should like 2 hours is a lot better than one. Now the people I see beating it in 1 hour, they had to have played through it before. They just know all the puzzles now, so they're just running through fast. But even at I beat it at 3 hours. I mean, that still seems like pretty dang short for a casual 3 hour run, highly casual 3 hour run. But that being said, I think if you take both games as one, like if you picked up Heaven's Dust and Heaven's Dust 2, for under $20 and then played both of them, I'm guessing you're getting around 6 to 7 hours, maybe even close to 8 if Heaven Dust 2 is harder than the first one, which I don't know that it is. I could be wrong about that assumption. I think that altogether is worth $20, and I don't mind it being short because it did kind of bring me something that I hadn't felt in a long time. So yeah, I think it's cool, and it kind of inspired me. I was telling you, I kind of want to like learn Unity now. Like I want to learn how to make a
is
little
that what
game
it's made
like
in?
this.
It's made in Unity.
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not criticizing their game, but it seems like something I could have made. You know what I mean? And
right.
So it kind of makes me. It kind of sparked that interest in me. It's like, well, could I make this like crazy puzzle game that's like, could I have done this? That kind of made me think about it more and more. And I kind of want to work on learning a little bit of that sort of thing. I don't want to make I don't even learn. Yeah, I like learning new things, and I would be interested to learn more about indie development of games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got lots of footage of my playthrough, and I'm going to try to use the discussion we just had and interject some other things to make like kind of a review episode for the
That's
YouTube
cool.
channel.
That's another nice thing about a short game is you can do that, and it's not like you have like 500 hours of footage.
Yeah, I really like, especially for this podcast, I really like looking into those kind of small indie titles like that. I'm going to try to find some more to review in future episodes.
Yeah, I should probably do that too. It's so hard for me to find an indie title that I actually enjoy. Like, not that I just bought and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm playing because it's on the podcast.
I had been going through, and see, this came at the end of like a weird stint for me. Well, not weird. Honestly, it should be weird, but it's not. I spent too much money. I was going through this stint of like every time I would log in to every game that I already own on Steam, and none of them are completed, by the way. Like I could
Yeah.
I've got plenty of stuff to do in every game. I have the new expansion for Final Fantasy 14. Guess what? I hadn't even started that quest line. I'm still in the previous expansion. I got the new expansion for Elder Scrolls Online. Guess what? Not even. Well, I actually am about halfway through that, but they've come out with new stuff that I don't even know about. And
Yep.
I know
exactly what you're talking about.
I pick up games, especially if they're on sale. Every Steam sale, I'm like a sucker for. And I pick these things up, and then I'm nowhere near completing them, but I'm bored with them. And so I'm like just looking through the Steam store at like, maybe I'll be interested in that. It's like $10. My lunch was $10. This is just an extra lunch, and I buy it, right? And then I either don't play it or I play it and then decide that I'm no longer interested in it. And so I think part of what delighted me so much about this was that I did purchase it, and then whenever I started playing it, I got hooked because it felt like that nostalgic thing, and I was super interested in it and wanted to talk about it on the show. And that's whenever that's kind of like that's what I'm looking for. I want to find more of that.
This is the time when you wish that Blockbuster was still around. You could just rent it, beat it, and then return it.
Oh, yeah, that's what we need, yeah. So Steve told me to look at Blue Fire. He said it's basically a Legend of Zelda clone. That was a lot of fun.
Ooh, that sounds
cool.
really
good, yeah.
I love Legend of Zelda, so... Man, like if I had endless money, I would definitely bought a Switch a long time ago just for Legend of Zelda because the new one looks so good.
I've seen this. I've seen this before, Steve, and this does look very good actually.
What was it called again?
It's called Blue Fire, and I've seen this little dude that's the main character. Little dude with a big sword and hood. I'll check this out.
Oh yeah.
I'll definitely check.
Ooh, and
this
it's
out.
like the cell shaded. That's nice.
Yeah. We'll have to
That's
see
cool.
what the Proton DB reviews are. Yeah, I like this a lot. Maybe I'll be talking about that next week, Steve.
Yeah. Looks pretty cool.
Well, all right. I think that's about all we had for this week. Do we figure out if heaven will if Ubuntu will be in heaven?
I don't know. I think it's got a long way to go.
Oh, cool. Oh, and it's the chosen one. So Steve said it runs smoothly under Proton Glorious Egg Roll.
Sweet.
The chosen one.
The chosen one.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for listening, and get us to 100 so that Josh here has to run Arch, and he's got no.
Yes, but no.
He's got no option in the matter. And you get a new SSD out of it. It's gonna be small enough that you never use it.
I'll just put it in my mom's desktop. She needs an SSD in that thing.
There you go. There we go. All right.
And I'll leave Arch on it too.
We're doing this for Josh's mom, guys. All right. We need like 20 more subscribers. We're doing it for Josh's mom. Come on, people.
What are we gonna do? A 24-hour live stream?
Good.
We need 10 more subs for an SSD upgrade for Josh's mom.
Something else says I subbed just so he could run Arch. There you go.
Oh crap.
He had a mistype at first. He said I slept just so he could run Arch. I was gonna say something else slept so that Josh could run. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, see ya.